are number one, how did I know I wanted to become a writer? And number two, how did I get my ideas for the Gallagher Academy and now for Heist Society? Have you guys gotten your Heist Societies yet?
Yay!
It's always like that when a new book comes out. It's like, yay! So I knew I probably wanted to be a writer when I was about you guys' age. It was whenever I read the book The Outsiders for the very first time. I love The Outsiders, and when I found out that she was from near where I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, and when I found out that she was from Tulsa and that she was 16 when she wrote that book, that was the first time it really kind of entered into my mind that, you know what, hey, real people write books. And not only that, but real people like me, about my age, from where I'm from, you know, kind of a peer of mine, write books. And so that was the first time it ever really entered my mind, and that meant a lot. And so from that point on, that was kind of the dream job. I knew that it probably wasn't going to be practical to do that because not everybody gets to do it. So I went to college and I had a very practical major and had a very practical job before this. But in the back of my mind, that was something that I always wanted to do. And so I worked really hard and I wrote my first book and I got an agent, and it was great, and I was thrilled to be a published author. But things weren't exactly 100% clicking. I wasn't really in love with what I was writing. And then my agent emailed me actually one day and said, you know what, I think that you would do great writing for teens and young adults because you're really immature. And I said, yes, I'm totally immature. And she said, and it's a good market, and they're passionate fans, and they're looking for smart books. And so I said, that sounds perfect. And I came home and I was watching TV. I was watching the TV show Alias. You guys remember Alias? And it was Jennifer Garner, and she was a college student by day and a spy by night, which let me tell you is like the dream. And so it was just incredibly awesome. And I look up and it's an old flashback episode. And I see these little girls running through this big abandoned building in the middle of the night. And my very first instinct was, oh my gosh, did she go to a boarding school for spies? Well, I turned up the volume and it turns out that wasn't it at all. But by that point, what has taken root in the back of my mind? A boarding school for spies. How incredibly cool would it be to go to a boarding school for spies? And the thing I always do when I'm writing a book, my process doesn't really vary that much. It's almost always kind of the same thing. I start with a character, a girl who goes to a boarding school for spies, and then I ask the question, what's the worst that could happen? Because a novel is not about a character, it's about a character overcoming obstacles. And so what are the most interesting challenges that I can throw in their way? And girls tell me, what usually messes up a girl's life faster than anything? A boy. So I said, okay, so she's got to be this awesome, kick-butt, girl power spy, but she's going to meet this boy that she doesn't know have any idea how to deal with him. And so I knew immediately that the title of the book was going to be, I'd tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you. And it was going to be set at this boarding school. And I sat down and I wrote off that email to my agent. And within probably 5 or 10 minutes, she wrote me back and she's like, that's it, you got it. And so I spent the next couple of weeks writing the first 36 pages, sent it off to New York, sold it almost immediately to the wonderful publisher Disney Hyperion, who I've been with ever since. And the rest, as they say, is kind of history. So that's how the Gallagher Girls came to be. Heist Society was a little different story, but not much. I was having a lot of fun writing the Gallagher Girl books. I'd written books 1, book 2 almost killed me, but I survived it. And then I was thinking it might be nice to write something different. It's kind of like when your favorite food is pizza, for example, and you get to have pizza every single day. You still love pizza, and it's still your favorite food, and you're lucky to get to have it, but would it be nice every once in a while to have something different? And so I thought it might be nice to try something different. And so I was driving in my car, and I was listening to a book on tape. And the book had a line in it that said, I was like a cat burglar in my own house. And I heard that, and I immediately thought, I want to write a book about a girl named Cat who's a burglar. And so I knew that, again, I started with my character. A girl who goes to a boarding school, school for spies, a girl who's a burglar. And I knew immediately also somehow that she would have been born into a family of thieves. And so I thought, okay, what's the question that I asked, guys? What's the worst that could happen? And so I thought, if you're in this family of thieves and you've kind of been born into this kind of con man, arts thief, jet set lifestyle, probably you want to leave that lifestyle. And the worst thing that could happen to this poor girl is she keeps being sucked back in. And so I knew that another challenge that I would face with that book is that she's going to be doing really bad things. And I was technically going to be writing a book about the quote-unquote bad guy. And how do you do that? And I thought, well, the only way you can really handle that is that the people that she's stealing from has to be worse than she is. And she has to be stealing for a really good reason. And so that's how High Society came to be. And that, let me tell you, it was a lot of fun to work on that book because I've always loved con men movies like The Sting and Ocean's 11 and Thomas Crown Affair. Those are one of my favorite types of movies. And so getting to write and think in that world with a new fresh spin on it was really, really fun. And the whole time I was working on it, I was thinking, you know, this is probably the most cinematic book I've ever done. It feels like a movie. I'm really enjoying writing this dialogue. But you never know. Hollywood is a crazy, crazy place. But let me tell you guys, last week things went crazy. We sent it out to my film agent sent it out to some producers on Friday. On Monday, the phone started ringing, and they'd all read it over the weekend and were really interested in it. On Tuesday night, they sent it out to studios. On Wednesday, studios heads started calling about it. On Thursday, it went to auction. And Thursday night, we sold it to Warner Brothers.
Wow.
So, thank you. It is crazy. It's one of those things that nothing ever happens fast until it does. And so, as of right now, High Society is under auction at Warner Brothers. Denovi Pictures is the production company attached. They've already got a screenwriter hired. The screenwriter's working on the screenplay. They say things are moving really quickly. But the thing I've learned about Hollywood is Hollywood lies. And so if they say, oh, all signs are good, that means, yeah, we don't really know what's going on, but we just have to tell you something. So who knows? But at the very least, it's fun, and I mean, hopefully it's a good sign that you guys will enjoy the book, because ultimately that's what matters the most to me. So with that, I thought we'd throw it open to questions, because you guys always ask the best questions, and I want to get right to what you're interested in. So who's got the first question tonight? Yes. The Love You Kill You movie. That was originally optioned by Walt Disney, as many of you know. Then the option was purchased from Disney by Walden Media. Last June, that option actually lapsed. So I have it back again. It's in my possession, and that's a good place for it. That means that no movie is currently in the works. We get calls from people interested in it all the time, but I've reached the point where I'm going to be really, really picky because I've decided that I would rather have no movie than a bad movie. And so I'm going to take my time, and there may never be a movie, but if there is one, I'm going to do my best to make sure it's something that you guys would enjoy. Because the original option and the original screenplays that were being written, they didn't stay very true to the book. And I think that you guys probably would not have been very happy with them. And so I'm happy to have those rights back right now. Good question. Yes. What was your practical day job? My practical day job, I worked for a university. I was an agricultural economist. So it is the definitive, practicalness, and as opposite of, spy writer as you could possibly be. So it's kind of crazy. Yes.
What gave you the idea for the second book?
For the second book, Cross My Heart and Hope to Spy?
Yeah.
That actually came about, there's a little line, I'm sure those of you who have read the